Well, hello there. My name is Ben, and boy do I have a vlog for you guys. For today's trip, we're going to be driving all the way down to the Digimon Regional Tournament at Niagara Falls. And in case you guys didn't know, this tournament is extremely important to me. Not only am I going to another in-person event, but this time it's actually going to be held in Canada. You know, the thing that I've been asking Bandai for practically forever. It's time to see if I'm a player that deserves to go to nationals. Seeing as you guys enjoyed the style of the previous vlog, I decided that I'm going to be maintaining the style from now on. So, without further ado, it's time to get going. Adventure! Like always, we always have to start by saying goodbye to the bestest of boys. The only way to start a trip, in my opinion. Bye. Although this time, since I actually don't have to fly to the event, I can actually enjoy a nice road trip with the homies. Although, admittedly, it's a fairly long trip, so I don't really want to get stuck in rush hour. So I specifically told my friends that I want to leave by 6 a.m. just so that we don't arrive late at night the day before the tournament. That's a recipe for disaster. Now, one of my new homies, Connor, he showed up on time. As for Fari, though...
So, I told Fari I was gonna be at his place by 7 a.m. and, it's 7-11. Yeah. He's asleep.
Now, of course, I couldn't be too mad at him. He is a gamer after all, and I didn't have to wait that long for him to show up.
Oh, there he is. Good morning. Where's
Lena? Out?
What?
She been out?
No.
Where's Lena?
Well, you're the first one out.
Oh,
Oh yeah, my editor was coming with us too. I needed someone to help document the event, but it looks like she also wasn't ready for early departure. Anyways, 30 minutes later, it looks like we're finally ready to hit the road.
Packed up and ready to go. Blur that.
Ready to go. Blur that.
I got you.
Oh. Fari, ready to go?
let's roll and rock.
Roll and rock.
Let's go. Woo!
Ready to go.
Look at that blue ass water right now. Crazy.
Crazy.
Now, I don't exactly want to bore you guys the entire drive there, but I will say that we managed to dodge most of the traffic. But unfortunately, for those who don't know, there is just one part of the road to Niagara that is always packed.
Hey Ben, this is what it feels like when you brick.
No, I didn't understand road rage. I get it now.
Yeah, because you don't drive in Toronto.
Never experienced greater pain. One car ride later, and we've arrived in Niagara.
How was the drive, Benjamin?
Miserable. There was so much traffic. I hated every single bit of it. But we're here now, at a beautiful hotel, in the beautiful sky. Look how pretty it is up there.
What tower is that?
It's the CN Tower, obviously. Alrighty, so we're here at our hotel. Let's see what it looks like, shall we? Oh. Hey yo, you may think it's small, but actually, it's a lot more bigger than it looks. There's a lot of us here, so yeah. Pretty solid. I like the space. I very much like the space.
I was quite happy with the amount of space that we got. There were a lot of people from my hometown coming to this regional. It was the first in-person regionals we've had in a long time, so I can't blame them. So you know we were going to be partying up here. Now admittedly, we were the first group to arrive at our hotel, but apparently the venue is only a 10 to 15 minute walk away. So naturally I wanted to go and get some steps in.
Ben, I wonder which one's the convention center.
Oh, yeah, actually I have no idea. Maybe it's that one?
Doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Probably took a wrong turn. Let's go back to Toronto. Alright, so I wanted to check out the venue a little bit before the big day of the event, but unfortunately it closed at 5, and it's 5:04. Well, time to go back.
Back to Toronto.
Back to Toronto.
It was a tad unfortunate. We were just too late to scout out the venue, which would have been nice to see before the tournament started. But luckily, it was getting close to dinner time anyways. Once the rest of the boys arrived, we went out to get some Italian food.
We're here with the crew, ready to get some food.
That one's mine. It looks delicious.
Here with the squad. Boys. Say Digimon. Yes. In case you couldn't tell, my name is Ben, and this is
Also, thanks.
We're on a Ben date right now. It's so romantic.
Right? I love you, buddy.
I love you, buddy.
Yeah, there were a lot of us, but this is definitely one of those cases where the more the merrier. Big trips with friends like these is the best part of being a card gamer.
Time to head back to the hotel. We submitted our deck list, and we're also gonna go to the hot tub.
Okay, so maybe I didn't actually record me going into the hot tub, but the reason for that is because, one, I was extremely tired, and two, I don't want to show you guys my nipples. Maybe if you guys became a channel member, I might actually show them. Nah, I'll leave that for OnlyFans. But other than that, it was extremely relaxing to be able to just sit there, wash all the stress away, and just talk about life with some friends. Definitely something I'd recommend before you head into a big tournament. But with that, it was the end of day 1. It's game time, ladies and gentlemen. For this regional, there was about a cap of 384 players, if I'm not mistaken, which we filled out no problem. Everyone was definitely feeling the hype of an in-person regionals in Canada. Please, man, give us more. Please, please. But like always, my mission was to beat all of them.
Alright, boys. It's tournament day. I can't wait to go X2 drop. Let's do this, boys. Team X2 drop.
Now, of course, the venue was not nearly as big as the national tournaments, but that was to be expected. Although, the great thing about having the entire Canadian community in one room, I got to see some familiar faces.
I found the coolest judge. Hello. Nobody. I don't exist. Don't show Bandai.
This is the backup plan if I go X2 drop, guys. I'm gonna be sitting right here. Hopefully not.
Hopefully no X2 draw.
Oh yeah, that's my boy T-Mac. He actually originally wanted me to cast with him for the tournament stream, and I actually agreed. If I went X2, of course. The goal of this tournament was to finish with an X1-1 record at the very minimum in order to make it the top 16, with which only the best 16 players will be able to represent in the national tournament. Only other way to qualify would be to participate in those online regionals. And considering how you guys know how I feel about those kinds of tournaments, it was make or break for me. So naturally, I'll admit, I was definitely feeling the pressure. But that's okay, my buddy gave me a Frappuccino from Starbucks to keep me caffeinated. Also, admittedly, the comfort of knowing that I could always just commentate if I did not do so well did help alleviate the pressure a bit. Which, by the way, since I do have my invite already, if you guys have any future events you want me to commentate, hit me up, Bandai. Leave a comment down below if you want to see your boy commentate future events. But I know that's not what most of you came for. Now, for those of you who didn't know what I brought to the tourney, I decided to roll up with SOC, Ben Edition. Now, I'm definitely sure that future me would have posted a deck profile by now, so be sure to check out that video if you want to see full explanations of the list. Round 1, we're going to be up against Demon Lords. Now, for those who remember from my deck profile, you would have known that I talked about playing Chikuriamon in my deck list as a tech for this specific matchup. And believe me when I told you, when I saw them flip their eggs and showed the gates of the Demon Lords, I exhaled the biggest sigh of relief. Game 1, I was going for my usual plays of swinging early with a Darugamon. While having a Dex Darugamon in trash, I was able to get a whole bunch of chip damage without using my Dex Darugamon protection so early, thanks to Marvin Jackson's jamming. A lot of times he would use his reduction to bring out a EX6 Lucamon for reduced cost, just so that I couldn't D-Digivolve it. And normally, based on my current Dorogoromon stack, I actually would have crashed with exactly 13k DP, meaning I would have to use my Dex Dorogoromon in trash for protection early. But thanks to Yuji Musha, every time I swing with my Dorogreymon, I use Yuji Musha to slide in an extra 1k DP, whether it be from the BT16 Doromon or Darugamon, just to make sure I was hitting over 14k DP, with reboot mind you. Yuji came in so clutch, and because I was able to keep collisioning him and denying him his deletion from Gates of the Demon Lords, I was in control of the game. And just as I was establishing a big board and he had a reduction cost of 9 or more, I slammed that Chikuri down. And I was definitely able to see the surprise expression from my opponent's face. And much to my surprise, he outed it with a biting crunch. And it was from there, as the game progressed on. Unfortunately for him, I had the second Chikuriamon right and ready. And with that 7 memory he gave me, it was an easy cleanup. Game 2, I managed to see the Chikuriamon early again, but except this time I unfortunately played it a little bit too early, but I just had to see how he would out it, with which he outed with Biting Crunch again. And from there, I was able to determine this man was not running Porcupamon. Now for those who aren't aware, most Demon Lords do run the tech card Porcupamon in order to delete those anti-reduce floodgates, because normally that would actually lock them out of the game. But my guess is that he opted for a more consistent and speedier Demon Lords list in order to ensure that he would beat those fast blue decks, which blue in general does not have access to those anti-reduce play cost floodgates. So I guess I can kind of see where he was coming from. But unfortunately, he had to face me round 1. But unfortunately, just as I was getting my board presence established, he unfortunately checks a lot of early kill spells in security, which would often kill things like my BT15 Megajamon with a Marvin Jackson underneath, which is essentially a 2-for-1, which did set me back a lot. And because his deck was the speedier version of Demon Lords, I did get a Gudamon to death. Moving on to game 3, we were having a big back and forth. except this time I managed to find both of my Chikurimons. And I didn't misplay when I played down the first one, with which he outed with a biting crunch, which at this point I was 1000% sure he was not playing Pokemon. But by the time I managed to bring out my second one, we were playing a lot more of a slower game, and he wasn't even able to out it. At the end of the very last few turns, he did finish his turn by playing a Rise of the Great Demon Lords, putting in his 7th Numon, but however he did confirm there wasn't an Agudamon in trash. And I was still keeping the Chikurimon on board, meaning I was free to do whatever I wanted. I was making my board extremely wide, and within the next few turns I would have absolutely won, except unfortunately we heard time was called. Now maybe it's because I wasn't really used to the venue, or maybe the PA system wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be, but as I was establishing my winning end board, we heard that is time in overtime. And at first we were both very confused. We didn't think that time was called. We didn't even hear the first time the time was called, with which my opponent, much kudos to him, is saying, oh, just play it out, we'll see what happens. But then unfortunately a judge came by and asked, oh, is this game for fun? With which we regrettably said no, and as a result, that was my first draw of the tournament. Super unfortunate we started with a draw there, but I guess when it's control versus control, you kinda expected it to happen. It just really sucks knowing that I would have won that game 3. Now, honestly, starting with a record of X01 is not bad. It actually makes us in a really good spot to potentially win this entire tournament, because unlike the previous tournaments I've been to, they weren't going to stop if there was only one XO. They were only going to stop after all the whole 9 rounds would be finished. So there was a chance that actually every single one in the top cut would be going X1 at the minimum. So I was still feeling hopeful. Round 2, we're up against the best deck in the room, Imperialdramon, who is actually a fan no less. Literally as I showed it to my table, my man literally asked me, are you Ben the Machine God? With which I humbly said, well, yes I am. Although, regrettably, I will admit, he unfortunately did not have a very good 2 games against me, with which I was able to swiftly 2-0 him. The really weird thing with Imperialdramon being the best deck in the room, it's honestly pretty strange. It really teeters off either being the most broken deck you've ever seen, to one of the most mid decks you've ever seen. It really depends if they see their Davis and Ken or not. And unfortunately, games 1 and 2, he didn't really see it, or by the time he actually did see one, my Dorugoromon easily popped it. But of course I did feel bad, so I had to give him a game 3 for fun, with which he absolutely high-rolled the hell out of me. Which I honestly don't mind. Get the bad luck out of the way now. And shoutouts to that fan as well, he was an absolute good sport about it. Props to you, good sir. Hopefully we get a chance to face each other again. Now we're entering round 3, and we're gonna be up against Leviamon. Now I was quite surprised about this one, because Leviamon is not exactly a deck you see in the meta these days, but it kind of makes sense if you were expecting Imperialdramon to be the best deck. Because, as I said before, Imperialdramon really relies on that Davis and Ken in order to bring out those free Digimon, which plays right into their biting crunch, which could absolutely cook them if they're not ready for it. Now I'll admit, because I was playing black-based SOC, this guy had absolutely no idea what my deck was capable of, but basically all I did from games 1 and 2, I was able to just set up a Dorugoromon and a Dorugamon while having their Dex halves in trash, basically mitigating any potential value you may get off of that biting crunch, with which I would then go into a Dex Dorugoromon to just out that Leviamon anyway. A swift 2-0. He was also extremely surprised whenever I brought up the Chikurimon, which made me think that he was probably playing Death X, but I actually think he was probably playing the Anubismon instead, which Chikurimon absolutely cooks. So make that another matchup that Chikurimon helps out with. Next up, we're entering round 4. Now, after round 3, they were actually really kind to give us a lunch break, which I'm super appreciative of. So I just want to give a huge shout out to the tournament organizers for allowing that. Now, unfortunately, the venue only had cheese pizza for me to eat, but I was gonna take what I can get, despite me being lactose intolerant. But one quick trip to the bathroom later, we are ready to start round 4. And as luck would have it, or I guess semi-on theme, we were up against Numon. They were able to sense I was lactose intolerant, huh? Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with how SOC deals with Numon, it actually is extremely easy. Due to us having early collision with the Dorugamon, we were able to always out whatever Numomons they play out from their hand, and usually they don't really want to evo their Numomons in the back. And as you mentioned the fact that they lost their 4 copies of the Numomon X antibody, as well as the promo Ukumon package. So, considering that I'm a deck that is able to consistently out their early turn boards, while also they losing a lot of the recursion, you can kind of see how the game is going. My opponent even saw the writing on the wall after game 1, and in game 2, he even just ended up hard playing a Venusmon, giving me 10 memory, and he was like, yup, just end me, bro. But he was extremely cool about it. He was really just there to have fun with his friends, which I absolutely respect. But it was in fact a swift 2-0.
Welcome to Ben's channel. Ben's channel vlog. This is not Ben, but it is his friend / cousin. Hi. So far we're just waiting. We finished round 4. I don't know where Ben is, but I'll be taking over the channel. Trinity Hobby. Please visit the site. Come by. Super great store. Super great people. Super great community. They play on Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. every week.
But now we're entering round 5, and we got ourselves a little bit of a win streak, and I was honestly quite surprised how I've just been surrounded by Imperialdramon in all of my rounds so far, but I haven't faced another one yet. So of course, I had to face one now. Game 1, we're able to see Imperialdramon yet again, either teeter from either being the best deck of the format, It's one of the most mid decks you've ever seen. And just when he thought he could set up another Davis and Ken, Dorogoromon was right there to eat it up. Moving on to game 2, he was able to set up that high roll that everyone is so scared about. With which I actually managed to come back with a high roll of my own, promoting that Doromon, sliding a Kosuke underneath for that protection. With which I was able to out his Imperialdramon right away. But of course, with Imperialdramon being Imperialdramon, he was able to come back and set up another Pyaldramon, stunning my Dorogoromon. And just when I was about to set up another way to out him, he's able to stun my board again, thanks to the Imperialdramon Dragon mode. But he wasn't killing me. I was down to 1 security. But I knew for a fact that all the stuns were going to add up and be extremely annoying, especially since in the last turn he ended up by playing a second Davis and Ken, meaning another BT16 Pyaldramon was on the way, and I couldn't let that happen. So while my entire board was stunned, I was establishing a pretty scary board. So I decided to take that opportunity to have my 3 memory and Digimon right into the Ruin mode, with which if he didn't answer it, I would be skipping his turn twice. And my opponent knew that, but he wasn't having it. So he Digimon right into an Imperialdramon Dragon Mode ace to out the Rumor right away, which normally is seen as a good play, except that is the one thing you don't want to do against SOC. You see, the thing about SOC is that we're always able to play on both on our turn and our opponent's turn, with which, if we're able to out an ace on our opponent's turn, that overflow could just mean a free turn for us, essentially skipping the turn anyways. And that's exactly what happened. I skipped this turn, established a big partner presence, and was able to swing with 4 more attacks per game. Another 2-0. And just like that, it's time to enter round 6. Or so you thought. You see, just as we were about to set up our match, I was able to hear 2 things from the judges that, based on my past experience, I almost never want to hear anymore. Random deck check. Now, for those of you who have actually watched the previous Nationals vlog, you would know that how much I am traumatized by hearing those words. Go watch it if you haven't seen it already. So naturally you could tell I was definitely feeling the pressure. Now, I did take extra precautions, mind you. This time, the day before deck submission was due, I actually triple checked my entire deck submission, and this time, we were actually allowed to submit a picture of our deck list. So I triple checked that thing front to back. I think I submitted like 2 to 3 deck submissions before that first deck submission. And that was the day before deck submission was even due. Which means that on the ride to Niagara, I made sure to not touch a single bit of Digimon until the tournament started. There was no way I was going to risk a last minute change and me losing deck check again. But of course, due to my past trauma, I was in fact very, very scared. And of course, my opponent gets his deck before I get mine back. I was definitely turning gray from all the stress. But just then, a few minutes later, the judge slowly comes back with my deck list and says, "You guys have 5 more minutes." We passed, baby! Those extra precautions hella came up. I was not losing a deck check again. But finally entering round 6, we're up against the best deck in the room, Imperialdramon yet again. And game 1, I was feeling pretty good. Except at post mulligan, I saw the opening hand of Kosuke, Yuji, Marvin Jackson, AG, and Megadramon. I couldn't believe my eyes. I bricked. But it seems my opponent bricked a little bit somewhat as well. Or at least on the very first turn, so I was feeling not too bad. But unfortunately he managed to draw the rest of his pieces as the game went on past turn 3 anyway, so I was not looking too good. But the only reason why I didn't scoop is because I was actually able to hard play that Megadramon and it fixed my hand. And I was back in the game. Megadramon MVP! And in fact, I was in control. I was about to actually win the game entirely, except I made a hindsight 2020 misplay. That misplay being that I wanted to keep a Mindling Tamer underneath one of my SOC level 6s in order to make sure that I always had a blocker on the board, just so that it was forced into a DNA play to strip that source. But unfortunately, I actually kept a Kosuke underneath instead of a Marvin Jackson underneath that level 6, because I had a Sephirothmon in my hand always ready for follow-up play, if he decided to get rid of it. But it was definitely one of those things where I played a little bit too fast, and especially because I was worried for time, that I ended up leaving the Kosuke and not thinking about it. Probably what also encouraged that line of plays that I had a Doromon in Raising, with which I was able to slide in another Kosuke underneath for protection, so technically I would have had 2 Kosukes that were a bit redundant anyways, and that Marvin Jackson on board would ensure that I would always have more memory extension. But the problem is that I didn't have any spare trainings, which means that if I was choked to 1, I wouldn't be able to do that Sephiroth play, with which I did. Definitely a mistake on my part, but I kinda wrote off that game anyways considering how badly I bricked. But considering how much I was back in the game, I really should have locked in. Now moving on to game 2, I unfortunately was having a rough hand again, but I did manage to evo up an early Megadramon to set up my Tamer board presence, with which he tried to follow up with an early aggro EX1 XVmon play. And he said to me out loud, "Let's see if this guy plays Vikemon Ace." To which I said, "Oh, I'll show you an ace alright. I Mega Gargo Ace his ass." And I let the jamming Vmon go through, because he played the other body with the Davis and Ken, meaning it would actually be bounced the hand afterwards, meaning that X-Vmon was the only Digimon he would have on the board that would stay on the field, which I could then do a 4-swing play and steal a whole bunch of tempo. Which would have been the best case scenario, except I did not draw a Dorogray. Yeah, that game was extremely rough, but I held it in there. In fact, I held it in there for so long that we actually had a huge crowd around us. I even had a really cool anime moment where a whole bunch of people were saying, "Oh my god, that guy's playing Black Base SOC. I've never seen Black Base SOC being played before. Wait a minute, that's Ben Ben. I did feel pretty amazing. With which, I was able to go into a Shine Grim and Rune mode and absolutely cook him. But although the game went in way longer than I expected, and as a result, despite me winning the game, we actually drew the round.
We drew in this next round, but there's still like 3 more rounds after this. So I don't like that. I basically can't afford to lose anymore, so it is what it is. He's a good guy, really cool. I just bricked game 1. I drew 4 tamers and a level 5, and that was it. And he beat my ass. I almost won it though. I almost won it, I just misplayed. I misplayed so hard. It is what it is.
Yeah, I was really beating myself up over that game 1 misplay. But while a draw doesn't seem too bad, it really did mean that if I get another loss, I don't think I would have made top 16. So from this point on, I have to lock in. And now we're approaching round 7, and I'd be lying if I told you that that last round took a lot out of me. The pressure of the whole crowd watching it, as well as being the last people in the round to finish, I did not get a lot of time to rest, unfortunately. But I had to lock in. But this time, we're going to be going up against Purple Base SOC. Now, I will admit, when my opponent flipped his egg, he actually revealed a BT14 Balmon in game 1, and then digivolved into a Lugamon, with which I then had to wonder, which base of Lugamon is this? Is he playing the BT14 Lugamon with the OTK variant? Or is he playing the new Takemikizuchi OTK variant? Or is he playing Purple Base SOC? Because those 3 different decks play on 3 completely different axes, I would have to change my playstyle greatly. But then I saw a little card being played down after he evolved into Lugamon that really put a smile on my face. He played a cool boy. He must be playing Purple Base SOC, isn't he? And after he revealed his top 3, I was absolutely correct. With which I followed up with the Doraemon evolution into a Yuji. It was truly gonna be a battle of between who was better, Cool Boy or Yuji. And let it be known, we were both bricking hard. I was fighting tooth and nail just to find a single SOC tamer, whereas my opponent was fighting tooth and nail just to find a single level 6. But you see, the thing is, not finding a level 6 is not the worst thing in the world, considering that you really need an SOC tamer to get your engine going. Whereas all I had to show for was a Yuji. I did not find a single SOC tamer. And not only that, I did evolve a BT17 Agumon, a Sephirothmon, and then a hard Evo Doro Greymon in the back. I couldn't commit anything, and he was already bringing me down to 1 security while I haven't done a single point of damage to him, except one thing happened. By the end of his turn of doing a lot of early aggro plays and alliancing with the Aegis, he ended his turn with a Dexter Greymon as well as a Darugamon on the field, meaning that after confirming that, he had no way to save those guys on the field. With which, I then promoted up my Doro Greymon, gained 1 memory and drew a card thanks to Yuji, and then just hardy with a Doro Goromon for 1 memory thanks to the defense training. With which, thanks to Yuji, I was able to slide in an X-Antibody Protoform on attack. So I was still getting that draw for that Doraemon. And then afterwards, I added his 2 bodies, played a level 4 for my trash for free, and ended my turn by digivolving into the BT15 Megadramon. And to give you guys a little perspective of what I checked for my top 3, I revealed a Kosuke, a Marvin Jackson, and an Aichi. And just like that, I was back in the game. I wasn't lying to you when I told you that BT15 Megadramon saved me so many times. And just because of that, I was able to maintain so much board control thanks to the Megadramon popping his tamers, as well as a Doro Goromon being able to pop any future tamers he would play out. And because of that Megadramon inheritable, he was never feeling comfortable about forcing my Doro Goromons to swing, because then I could de-evolve his Doro Greymon before he gets his free Evo. So with which, on the very last turn of game 1, he was forcing my Darugamon on the field to swing, and ending his turn onto a Doro Goromon, which I think then he was actually trying to force out a Dex Doro Goromon Evo to wipe my entire board. But unfortunately, because the Doro Goromon was a forced pop, he was popping my Darugamon. But that's because he was expecting me to save it with a Dex Darugamon. And as soon as he targeted from that Doro Goromon, I simply did... yeah, he dies. And the look at my opponent's face when he said, oh yeah, you can do that. We were both definitely getting tired. But unfortunately, due to that game-losing misplay, I definitely won that one. And for the record, Yuji sliding in that X-Antibody Protoform underneath while allowing me to evolve for 1 thanks to the defense training definitely came up. And I was gaining 1 memory and drawing a card way more often than he was off of the Cool Boy. Moving on to a game 2, I start with an early passive turn of evolving into a Doraemon for 1, following up with the defense training, but then afterwards I then digivolve into an Airdramon, followed up with a Megadramon, getting 3 tamers on the board, with which I wondered I probably would get punished if he had an early Doro Greymon. With which, unfortunately, because he was trying to commit early because of my early commitment, he was really hoping on some high rolls, and he did not see an analog youth in the early game. As a result, he started with a 4-swing play, and then didn't digivolve into Doro Greymon, unfortunately. With which I was able to out his board as well as his AG. Which then he tried to get some follow-up searching by hard playing another Cool Boy, to which he then revealed a Wisdom Training, a Cracker Fang, and an AG Nagasumi. He never saw another SOC tamer that game. Just goes to show you why Cool Boy is a bad card. And what did I tell you before? If you don't see an SOC tamer, your deck has no text. A 2-0 for me. And now we approach round 8, and I would be lying if I told you that I definitely wasn't getting even more tired, especially experiencing an SOC mirror. You really have to play out of your mind for that one. But this time we're going to be facing a deck that's a little bit more unorthodox, Galaxy Mirage. Now for those of you who aren't familiar with how this deck works, this deck really focuses on abusing the Galaxy package and using the Ko and Sio Tamer to go into generic level 6s or even level 7s for absolutely free. In fact, the popular DigiTuber East actually covered it in one of his videos, where he beat a Magnamon X player by free evoing into an Imperialdramon Paladin mode ace. And then, believe me when I told you, this man was absolutely cooking me game 1. Every time I would try to go for a force swing play, he had the Lunamon able to bounce his Digimon before he gets the chance to force swing, denying me my plays on my opponent's turn. And just when I thought I was going to be able to turn the game around, he then used the Ko and Sio to get a free evo into the Imperialdramon Paladin mode ace. And I will admit, I completely forgot what the next win condition was. Oh yeah, I got Paladin mode ace to death. Game 2 is able to chop out a level 6 again extremely quickly. The Galaxy core was really putting in a whole lot of work, and I wasn't able to get any force swings off this time around, especially with the Lunamon on the board. But I did have one trick up my sleeve. I Digivolved my Megadramon right into a Dorogoromon, and based on what his current deck looked like from game 1, because Galaxy as a deck is able to actually reveal its deck pretty quickly, I was able to roughly see what he was playing, and I knew for a fact he wasn't playing any level 5 aces. So when he ended his turn with a Galgamon and a Dianamon on the board, I Digivolved my Megadramon into a Dorogoromon and swung with Collision, with which I could see my opponent ready to go for an ace, except I used Megadramon to say D-Digivolve 1 on his level 6. And then he says, oh, well shit. And unfortunately his board died, and thanks to the Yuji, I was able to slide in a Dorogreymon underneath so that I was still able to get my free call. And due to me constantly applying board control, he never felt comfortable ever promoting out. In fact, it got to the point where after our trash was getting so large, after I committed to a force swing play, he decided to hard play a Crimson mode ace to try to wipe my board and then trash my security for game on the next turn. Except unfortunately, after I did that force swing play, he didn't see that I played a Darugamon from my trash, allowing me to trash a Dex Dorogoromon as well. So then I was able to out his Crimson mode right after. And much props to him, he just scooped right away to make sure that we saved time for game 3. Moving on to game 3, we were both having a little bit of an awkward game, but of course, because Galaxy is a lot more consistent than mine, they were able to set up their bodies first. Eventually, I was able to finally control the board with a force swing play, but unfortunately, he was able to set up a Digimon Emperor, and I only had a Chikurimon in raising, meaning that as soon as I promoted, I would be losing 2 memory and not have enough memory to go for a force swing play, and I couldn't do it anyway because Chikurimon had the wrong traits. So that Chikurimon was glued to the back, unfortunately. And eventually, he did out my Dorogoromon stack, with which I used the Protoform to get a Dorugamon back into my hand, just so that I was ready for a force swing play, but unfortunately I didn't have another SOC rookie to play with. But I thought maybe I'll just draw it, and worst case scenario I could just evolve my Chikurimon in the back. But turn after turn, it looked like that I was not drawing another SOC rookie, and on the very last turn, he made an Apollomon, swinging for 3 checks on my security, leaving me with 1 security left. But just when I thought maybe I could come back, he hard played a second Emperor. I mean, this Chikurimon was gonna do absolutely nothing. And I'll admit, that was it. That's the game. This is the end of my run. It really sucks because I just needed another SOC rookie in my hand. I didn't have Calling from Darkness to get 2 of my rookies back if I wanted it. But because Chikurimon was in the back, I just can't play it. The game was over. Except, that's not how the story ends. You see, when he swung with that Apollomon, he swung for 3 checks exactly. And from what he checked in security, he checked my Protoform that I sent back to security earlier, a rookie, and Eiji Nagasumi. And honestly, I wasn't thinking much of him because I was too worried about thinking about time. But thanks to Eiji combined with Kosuke, I had 4 memory to work with, and a training on the board. And that's why just when I thought all hope was lost, I noticed that Eiji was the perfect colors I was looking for. I played that Calling from Darkness, getting those 2 rookies back into my hand, hard playing a Dorumon, mind linking with it, training into Dorugamon to get that force swing play, and ending my turn with a Dorogreymon. Oh, I was back in the game. And because of that, I was able to get another free body on the board, bring out a Megadramon, and because of that, I was able to pop the Digimon Emperors, and finally able to promote out the Chikurimon, and swing for game. I definitely dodged that by the skin of my teeth. But it just goes to show with my current ratios, I at least have some level of consistency. Quite the anime comeback if I do say so myself. Whew, and now we're finally in round 9, and let me tell you, I am definitely exhausted, and my opponent was feeling it too. And lo and behold, we're facing up against the best deck in the format, Imperialdramon, yet again. Now, I want you guys to play the guessing game with me. Do you think that Imperialdramon was able to show that it was the most broken deck you've ever seen in your life? Or do you think it showed that it was the most mid deck you've ever seen in your life? Well, allow me to show you game 1. Game 1, unfortunately my opponent managed to draw not 1, not 2, but 4 Stingmons. and nothing else. He did not see a rookie for 2 to 3 turns, with which I was able to completely destroy him. Definitely a little unfortunate, but then game 2, he's definitely seeing a lot more of an honest game. Now this time he opted me to go first in game 2, with which I start off by evolving a Doraemon in the back for only 1 memory, choking him as much as possible, which then he followed up by digivolving into a promo Vmon, and then digivolving it into the X Vmon from BT12, choking me at 1 as well. But there's one key thing to note about that play: there was no Davis and Ken. We were playing an honest game in this household. And also one other key thing to note is that he actually evolved the promo Vmon in the back as well. That is a surprise tool that can help us later. And I remember that entire play that he did and had it burned in the back of my mind for the rest of that game. And you'll definitely see why later on. Followed up with that play, I then hard played training, also choking him at 1. We were playing the game for as long as humanly possible. To which then he finally started hard playing his searchers in order to try to get some board presence. To which then I followed up by digivolving into a Darugamon, outing his stack, and then playing another training, choking him at 1 yet again, meaning that every time he would hard play a body, I was just gonna immediately out it. But he had no choice. Eventually he was stuck on always hard playing his searches to try to find more outs, to maybe find a Davis and Ken, or maybe actually find a way to clear board. But unfortunately for him, even when he started getting desperate and hard playing 2 searchers, thinking that I wouldn't be able to out both of them, I would use Collision to out the first one, and then use a Sephirothmon to force swing the other one. I wasn't letting him keep anything on the board. And just thought that maybe he could come back from this as the game went on. From this point of the game, I was pressuring with a BT15 Megadramon the entire time. I was begging for him to play a Davis and Ken, because I was gonna out it immediately with that Dorogoromon. And just as I was establishing an extremely wide board, with the Jakurimon mind you, so I couldn't get Death X'd, I finally felt comfortable enough to hard play a Tamer to give him 2 memory. And I could tell that as the game was going on, my opponent was getting even more impatient, because as soon as I gave him 2 memory, he promoted his X Vmon, and hard played the started X Stingmon for 3, putting him at -1. But thanks to the X Vmon, if he had end of turn DNA, he'd be able to go into a Imperialdramon and keep turn. If he had end of turn DNA, that is. And that is why I remembered extensively that he had that promo Vmon in the back. That end of turn DNA was not available to him. And why it was especially important that I always outed those searcher rookies, because those are the rookies that actually allowed him to have end of turn DNA in the first place. And because I was establishing that board, it was only natural that my opponent will eventually start getting impatient against the control deck, which plays right into my hands. My opponent realized it too when it was too late, where he was like, alright, finally, I have 2 memory. Promote an X Vmon, hard play Stingmon. To which I said, okay. To which he said, end of turn. And I said, yup. End of turn. A swift 2-0.
I can't believe it. We did it. That's where we finished, boys. This is where we finished. This is where we finished, boys. We're going to LA. Again.
It's my prize, boys.
Oh, yeah. Look at it. She's beautiful. I'm here with my boy Kyle. He's here to help me get the number off very carefully.
Congratulations, dude.
Wow.
2, 3, 4.
2, 3, 4, 500. Very pretty. Incredibly pretty.
Let's see. No, 2, 5, 2, 5, 4.
All right.
2, 5, 4.
Thank you.
Now you're void.
Damn it. Always
Good
a pleasure.
shit.
Always a pleasure.
Where's my boys?
Where's my boys? That's my boy. That's my boy. 28th place.
Top 32.
Top 32? This is his first regional, ever regional. Flexing.
I'm also like 50% of the reason his deck works.
Yep. It's time to go for pictures. I am really, really tired. But we did it. We did it. We did it. Ah. I'll see you guys in LA.
Alright, say hi to the boys.
Alright, where my boys at? Yeah. Let's go. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Let's go.
Usually these vlog stories are filled with a little bit of sadness. Usually it'd be a case of me bubbling out, or just some unfortunate outcome that stole my entire run from me. This time, I finally felt I could see the progress of my hard work, especially for that deck list. I want to give a huge shout outs to everyone in my locals that helped me build up that deck list. For those of you who probably would have known, that deck went through at least 10 different variations, and many months of practicing and grinding all those different matchups that we expected to be in that regional. And this was pre-ban list, mind you, which means we had to do even more last minute grinding once the ban list was announced. Although admittedly, it made my deck list a lot more better. And despite being in 5th place, the fact that I never lost a match, and given that with those draws I actually could have won those games anyways, I sure felt like a winner. And just like that, we're going to Nationals again, baby! And the fact that I got to celebrate with most of my close friends from locals in real time was such a surreal experience. Thank you, Bandai, for gifting me the opportunity to make these memories. But more importantly, I was starving. So naturally we had to go to the best place to eat after winning a tournament like this. Osmos. Now, I know, we probably could have gone to a better restaurant rather than eating fast food, but Osmos holds a little bit of a sentimental value for me. Now, to give you guys a little bit of backstory, during the practice sessions of our regionals, one of the members from our community actually recommended us to go eat at a new fast food place near our hometown that we've never actually tried before, that being Osmos. And admittedly, maybe it's because it's the first time we had that fast food, it was outright delicious. And it's kind of just been a bit of a running tradition before every practice session. We had to get our Osmos fixed. And unfortunately, despite everything, that member of our community in particular was not able to join us for this regionals. So I felt that was only just right. After all those practice sessions and we finally proved ourselves as a community, we had to get Osmos in his honor. It just held a lot of sentimental value for us, which also leads to the point that this regionals was just filled with heartwarming moments.
Yeah! We did it! Yes! 5th place, baby. 5th place. Undefeated. No losses. No losses.
One?
Not one. Going to nationals. Again.
What are we doing after Ben?
We're getting Osmos, baby.
Is this like a Saturday ritual you said?
Yeah, this is a Saturday ritual. We get Osmos before practice, and it fuels us up. Thanks to our friend Juan. Shout out to Juan, and it only makes sense.
Not 1-0 though. Not 1-0.
Not Hong Zero. Not Hong Zero. Not Hong Zero. Reach me in my DMs though. I'll hang out with you. We'll get Osmos one day.
I'm actually very thankful that everyone made it out to the event. Everyone played really well. Whoever came to practice sessions, you guys did really well too. Even if you didn't come to practice sessions, you guys still did really well. Because the whole point was that as a community, we just came to have fun. Maybe do well, maybe not. You know? I don't know how to say it, but I'm actually very happy that this happened.
I am too.
There's almost 25 or something, 30 players or something that showed up. That's pretty much our local scene that actively plays that showed up. So I'm actually very impressed. I'm very happy for that. And I like to actually thank some of the guys like Ben, Anthony, and some of the other guys, the ones that showed up to practice. And even if you didn't, the time between now and then, you guys actually got better as players. And I'm actually genuinely surprised. It's actually it's actually very impressive. I don't know how else to say it, but I'm just very happy for this.
You're proud of us.
Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
Yeah, it's cool.
My cat drools every time he drinks.
For those who don't know, Abby has a username that's extremely long every time he plays in the locals with us. What's the full name of your user?
My cat drools every time he drinks warm cream. Maybe giving him warm cream is best for him, but he enjoys it.
He maxes out the characters every time.
Oh, hey, you're still here. If I had to rank this trip, I would genuinely give it a 10 out of 10. And of course, I also want to take the opportunity to thank you guys all so much for all your continued support. I actually wasn't keeping track this time, but I genuinely met so many of you guys in the event that I actually lost count. It was genuinely heartwarming to see how much of you guys appreciate the effort I put into these videos. So I want to thank you guys all so much for watching. Hopefully I get to meet more of you guys at Nationals. If you guys have been enjoying the tournament vlogs, be sure to comment down below and I'll be sure to vlog that event too. Alright, that's gonna be it for the video. I'll see you guys at Nationals. Bye bye everybody!